자, 이번 영상은 일본의 중전차네요. 타입 95. 95식 로고의 중전차는 일본제 다포탑 전차가 실험하던 시기에 등장한 장비입니다. 자, 이 전차의 이야기는 1930년대 초 미쓰비시사에서 만든 91식으로부터 시작됩니다. 해당 전차는 고작 18톤 정도의 무게를 가지고 있었다고 합니다. 70mm 주포를 탑재한 이 장비는 서유럽이나 소련 쪽에서는 중형 형태로 보기는 하지만 일본에 있어서는 중전차로 보였다고 합니다. 자, 봅시다. 타입 95. 자, 타입 95. 우스갯소리로 그런 말 있잖아. 미국 탱크들 뭐 셔먼이나 이런 거 유럽 가가지고 독일한테 쫓 터지다가 일본한테 가가지고 거기서 왕도로 됐다 뭐 이런 거.
By the standards of Western Europe and the Soviet Union. Its main caliber was a 70mm cannon, though, which in Japan meant that the tank was a heavy one. At the time, the world of tank building was undergoing its multi-turret phase, so the engineers gave this heavy vehicle 3 turrets placed in a line along the hull. Only a single Type 91 had ever been made in metal, so it was never approved for mass production. The military demanded a modernization that resulted in the Type 95 Rogo. The new tank didn't offer a radically new design. The engineers focused on improving existing technologies and enhancing firepower. The main caliber was a 70mm cannon with a low muzzle velocity that was good for infantry support. For armored targets, the tank received another 37mm cannon in an auxiliary turret. The hull was still the same riveted armor with thickness ranging between 13 and 35mm, which was quite standard for the time. The chassis, though, underwent some major change. Instead of a large number of smaller wheels, the design team opted for fewer but large road wheels. The resulting mass of the vehicle almost reached 27 tons, so it received a new engine with 290 horsepower. Still, its top speed was limited to only 22 kilometers an hour. After the tank's arguable performance at the tests, the command placed an order for a small batch of tanks to be made at the Osaka arsenal. The exact number of tanks made is unknown.
이때 주포가 짧은 거, 뭐 열처리 그런 강도를 유지 못해서
the factory managed to complete around a dozen before the end of the 1930s. The Rogo's service was pretty uneventful. It spent most of its life outside combat, first lingering in the reserve and then being sent to training classes. Some unconfirmed reports state that this tank managed to see real action at the end of the 1930s, during the war with China. The Rogo could have been used as a base for an SPG as well, since the tank's chassis could support even heavier weapons. The future SPG design had a few options for weapons, such as a 120mm heavy naval gun, with an open compartment and armored plates in the front. The gun was developed in France in the 19th century, but it was still powerful enough to be used in combat at the time. The Type 95 had quite a list of flaws. It was slow, large, and plated with archaic riveted armor. On top of that, Japan's tank industry wasn't yet ready to build sophisticated and expensive machines. All these factors
아무튼 미국 전차들이 유럽에서 털리고 일본하고 만나가지고 왕도로 됐다. 그게 저한테 가장 인상 깊은 이야기였어.
Since they didn't have thick shell-proof armor. And in the Asia-Pacific region, where most of Japan's neighbors are situated, it simply had no competition at all. Experience gained by Mitsubishi engineers while developing the Type 95 was later used to design other vehicles, from the Chiha workhorses that endured the Second World War to the OI, a 100-ton monster that never saw the light of day.
없는 거나 마찬가지겠죠. 끝.